I'm Mark.
And I'm Josh.
And this is Comics Are Awesome, brought to you by Alter Ego Comics for the week of August 16th, 2017, also known as Dark Knight's Metal Day, or the day before Starfinder comes out.
The day before Starfinder.
Which is a game, apparently, that Josh is very excited for. So let's get right to it. We are going to be talking about the comics that we liked the most this week and that we think you should pick up to support comics that are awesome. My pick this week, Dark Knight's Metal #1 by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, the team behind Batman, the Court of Owls, essentially the entire New 52 run of Batman. And this was kind of set up in Dark Days, Dark Times,
Days, the casting,
Dark Days,
the Forge.
Dark Days, Dark Days, the Forge, and Dark Days, the Casting, which were two one-shots, which revealed some interesting things, that basically Batman has done it again and is alienating or not trusting the rest of the Justice League, investigating a mystery that is probably going to have some pretty horrific ramifications for the DC Universe, but he doesn't want to share because it's his. It's all his. He can solve the problem. If you got a problem, he'll solve it. So Dark Knight's Metal picks up after that, so you should probably pick up those two. If you didn't get a chance, or if you can't find them, you can still jump right into this, and you'll be able to ride along with the rest of us. Capullo gets to draw some great stuff that we have not seen him draw before when he was working on Batman. I think he got a little taste for the crazy when he was working on Reborn with Mark Miller, and we get to see some of that in here. And this is the beginning of an 8-issue run that will run until February. So, and then there are a bunch of tie-ins in individual series, which you may not need to pick up. Some people have asked already, do I need to buy the tie-ins? And our standard answer is, usually you just need the main series. If there's a certain character or certain title that you follow, absolutely, I would pick those up. Or if you're intrigued by a cover or a writer on a book, because they are bringing in some different writers to kind of work on some things. And then we've got some one-shots coming out with evil versions of Batman, maybe? We don't know they don't give us a lot of information here. They just throw the books in front of us before we start recording. But there's a lot of DCU history in here, lots of familiar faces, and this is the Justice League book I want to read. We were talking about that before we started shooting. The current Justice League book is just not for me. This is the way I envision the Justice League. It's very Jeff Johns-esque. And that's maybe a poor comparison, but Jeff Johns is probably one of the most praised Justice League writers of the last decade. And this has that feel. But there's also something dark and sinister lurking in the shadows. And there's a big reveal, which you've probably seen on the internet if you live on the internet, because the Washington Post spoiled it 2 days before the book came out. But if you haven't been spoiled, ignore it and carry on, pick up Dark Knight's Metal, and you'll be able to enjoy it as you read it.
And there's like a 60% chance you won't know who it is anyway, so...
That's, yes.
I mean, it's not
I didn't really understand what the hubbub was about, but I don't fall into the camp that gets crazy over the hubbub, so... But I really enjoyed it. I'm glad that it was a solid first issue. I'm super excited. We're going to be pumping classic metal music in the store today in honor of Dark Knight's Metal #1. My pick of the week.
So is that like Metallica covering Beethoven? Or
I don't know.
What is classic metal?
I understand there's a Spotify playlist called Classic Metal, or I don't know.
Okay.
And maybe we can find Scott Snyder's list, but I don't want F-bombs in the store. So.
Right. My pick of the week this week is Generations, All New Wolverine. I don't even know what the title of these books are.
You just sound like you're repeating yourself.
Oh, this is Generations the Best, because they're the best they are.
Around.
That's entirely possible. So this is written by Tom Taylor, Tom Taylor, with art by Ramon Rosales, and this takes place at some point in the past. X-23 has been vanishing pointed to some point in Wolverine's history, so he doesn't know she exists yet. She kind of recognizes the point in time that they're at, and they team up and solve a problem. It's a problem in Japan involving the hand, which is actually doesn't really narrow it down that much in Wolverine's history, because he seems to do that every couple years anyway. But it is awesome. Great dialogue, great interaction, great voiceover. Like the inner monologue of Wolverine as he's like seeing this person who he recognizes so much of himself, and he doesn't initially know who she is. And it's amazing. It's great. It's awesome. It's everything I want to read. It pays homage to the history of Wolverine and the X-Men. There's some great character moments for both characters, and they get to fight zombie ninjas, and that's really everyone's dream, is to kill zombie ninjas and cut them into little pieces. Yes, an iconic Wolverine villain, other than the hand, also shows up in here, wearing an old-ass costume. That's definitely not consistent with the costume Wolverine has on.
Yeah. That's my only nitpick with it. I think Wolverine's in the wrong duds, but I loved it too. You know, these Generations one-shots, before they came out, we sat down and, like, how do we order these? Who's going to buy these? And I think what you said is correct, is you look at the talent behind it. Mm-hmm. You know, look at who's writing it and go from there. And Tom Taylor, with his familiarity with X-23 and his, obviously, his affinity towards Logan, this is a great standalone story that brings these two characters together. You don't really... If you've seen the movie Logan and you've never read a Wolverine comic, you can pick this up and enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Next up for me, Time and Vine #2 by Tom Zoller. And this is just awesome. This month in, month out. So we're 2 issues in.
It's 2 months.
2 months now. This will be the most value that you get for your comic spending dollar. The story is dense. There's a lot. It feels like what? It feels like I don't know, like a TV miniseries or something. And there's just a lot of material there. The characters are relatable. You have time travel, you have emotion, you have drama, you have humor. What's not to love about this book? It's just great, and it's for anybody really. And like I said, this is just jam-packed with story. Do you have anything to add? I mean,
no, I don't. It was awesome. I liked it. There's a lot there. He's definitely setting up plot points. Well, I mean, a lot of times, like in a Doctor Who story, sometimes time travel is just about how cool time travel is. But all of these trips clearly relate to each other, and he's revealing things about the characters, about their history, about their interactions. You know, it's very well plotted and woven. Plus, you get to go to the 80s and see, shoulder pads and stuff.
80s were the best. Yeah, so we still have copies of issue #1 because we stocked this for the long haul, and we are planning on having Tom in at some point to do a signing if you're local, or even if you're not local, you want to make a trip to the shop. We are planning on getting Tom here at some point now that the convention season is kind of over. So keep that in mind, but if you haven't checked it out yet, I highly encourage you to do so. It's a great comic.
Next up for me this week is the Night Owl Society graphic novel. If you're a regular watching of the show, you know that I really enjoyed Night Owl Society. The quote on the cover is "Breakfast Club meets the Sopranos" from Newsarama, and that is pretty accurate. You get a group of kids at is it a Catholic school?
Yes,
it's a Catholic school.
Because a priest is involved.
School. Yes. No, there are priests all over the place. Doesn't have to be a Catholic school. A priest gets killed, and some kids at the school who were associated with him or who know him or know each other get involved in creating their own vigilante thing to hunt down the dark forces that are taking over their town and murdering priests. And one of the people discovers they have a personal connection to the people involved in the darkness. So it's like the mob versus, the Breakfast Club. Okay, yeah, Sopranos Breakfast Club. The Newsarama was right. But it's the characters
for the first
are really
time
well
ever,
drawn.
Newsarama was right.
Characters are well drawn. The interactions and personality, if you like, high school stories like The Breakfast Club, like Pretty in Pink, overlaid with, murdering people when necessary, it's really good.
I want to see that movie. Yeah. I want to see this movie.
I want to see Molly Ringwald choking a dude out.
I want to see Bender taking somebody down with a whiskey bottle.
Yeah.
Or Emilio Estevez, choking someone out with a jockstrap.
Emilio Estevez just working, I guess, is really what I would like. But no, it's awesome. I was very surprised. It's kind of done in one. I mean, there's room to go on and do more, but they definitely wrap up the story in this as a self-contained kind of graphic novel. I was very impressed with it, and it's totally worth your time in graphic novel.
Finally, for me, Aquaman #27, written by Dan Abnett, artwork by Stjepan Sejic.
Sure.
One of these days I may get this right. So we're 3 issues in with Sejic on board as artist, and my God, this is a beautiful book. Not only that, but maybe it's just the way I process comics, but I feel like the writing has gone up a notch. Abnett's a very capable writer, obviously, but I read some of his Aquaman stuff prior to Sedgwick coming on board, and it just didn't click with me. This does, and I don't know if Sedgwick has an influence on the story or what's going on, because there's a lot of creatures and, the kind of mutant Atlanteans, kind of, sort of, that he gets to totally have fun with. And I think this is an extremely well-written story. I think this will go down... I don't say this too often. Maybe,
say it occasionally.
Maybe I do. Well, I said it about Jason Aaron's Thor run.
And you're right.
And I'm right, yes. But I think that this run on Aquaman, hopefully it goes on for a very long time, will be looked back on as one of those must-read runs, similar to Peter David's run on Aquaman or Jeff Johns when he did the New 52.
Yeah,
I think that this is the next one. This is the one that you're going to want to read. So if you're not checking it out, you totally should. We're only 3 issues in. You should be able to find the back issues, hopefully. But Arthur has been declared dead. He apparently was seen being moitered. Were you reading it before this?
I didn't read. I missed that issue.
Okay. So he is kind of living on the lam in a lower tier of society in Atlantis. Mira is outside of Atlantis, is unable to get in because the current king has set up some sort of mystical force field. Some of Aquaman's former gang mates, like Volko, are running around trying to solve things from the inside. There's this, it's new to me anyway, like, something of the widowhood. Did you read this?
I haven't gotten it.
Widowhood sisters, who are kind of like nuns, but also maybe like Magdalena.
Oh, that kind of nun.
Yeah.
Also drawn by Stefan Sedgwick occasionally.
Yes. Also, yeah. It's great storytelling. It really is. I'm totally loving it.
Yeah, Well, I was gonna say, if you're not familiar with Aquaman, because he's never really been in a media thing other than the cartoons, it's a good check out before the movie. If you want to be able to tell people, how it's wrong, you can.
If you want to be ahead of the curve.
Gonna be that guy. Last up for me this week is Star Wars 34, written by Jason Aaron with art by Salvador LaRocca. If you had asked me if I wanted to read a story focusing primarily on a new character from the comics running around with Lando on a heist adventure, I would have said no.
No, he would.
But this is I'll show up for any Star Wars book. That's true. It wasn't something that I necessarily thought was going to be a good idea, but after reading it, this is amazing. So Sonya, what's her last name?
Solo.
Sonya. Well, it's not really
know.
Solo,
Yeah.
but she's got some other last name. So Sonya ropes Lando into
dancing,
helping her with a heist, basically a money-making scheme, and it's intricate. It involves a lot of players you'll know from Star Wars, and it's awesome. It's fun. It's like Ocean's 11 kind of, layers within layers and wheels within wheels and plans, and it's just great. I really liked it. And we don't get Lando much because he can't interact with the main cast, because this is before Empire, so Leia doesn't know who he is, Luke doesn't know who he is. Han and Chewie obviously do, but there's time there, so...
They haven't seen each other in Empire for a very long time.
Yeah, or at least, it's implied. It's actually...
And this is after Episode 4.
This is after Episode 4, so... Super awesome, great. Every Star Wars book is amazing.
Great photorealistic artwork.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. Like, I like the likenesses, but it bothers me when one character is photorealistic because they're from the movies, and the other characters are drawn like a comic book character because they're from the comics. It's super weird.
That's the way it was with when LaRocca was on Fraction's Iron Man, and Tony Stark looked like Sawyer from Lost all the time.
And everyone else did not look like an actor.
Yeah.
Yes, except Norman Osborn, who was Tommy Lee Jones.
Yes. That wasn't him, though. That was Mike Diodato.
Was it?
And then everyone may have picked up the baton and run with it.
Yeah.
So, strong week. Lots of strong contenders for best of the week. Just as a reminder, mine was Dark Knight's Metal. Josh's was
Generations the best.
Generations the best around, starring all the Wolverines. And it was great. Just fun stuff. I'm looking forward to Metal. I want to see what happens with the tie-ins and where the series goes. And we got a couple good Generations one-shots on the horizon. Hawkeye, written by Kelly Thompson, so that's cool. And
Thor by Jason Aaron.
And I think I mentioned last week the Thor issue packs a little more of a punch, and it kind of ties and leads into Marvel Legacy. So there you go. Hit up your local comic shop immediately if you haven't done so already, and if you're local to us, come see us. We want to see you weekly. You need to be in here checking out the new stuff every week, or you could miss out.
Yes, for example, like Miracle Man.
Yes, which is now gone.
All gone, and all gone from DC. So
all
until
gone.
they make more, no more DC.
No more Mr. Miracle Man. Mr. Miracle Man?
Mr. Miracle Man has escaped.
Miracle Whip. So thank you for watching. If you have comments or questions, please post them down below. If you like this episode, give us a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. And always, you're invited to hang out with us and continue the conversation in our Comics Are Awesome private Facebook group. There'll be a link in the show notes below. We hope to see you there.